Hoop Dreams, the podcast, an Unlearning Network production.
The man that is joining us today from Vancouver, British Columbia native, earned a full ride scholarship to Division I University of Albany, New York, where he also earned his degree, here it is, in human biology. After university, he pursued acting, which has led to roles such as Graceland, The Killing, Ransom, Firefly Lane, and now is set to star in a season of Snowfall on FX. And I know there's a lot of FX fans out there. I'm one of them. And I just gotta say this. Probably on, at least for me and my family, he is the top Power Ranger in the household, which I'm also gonna say this, got the dopest theme song ever for Power Rangers. I don't think they've ever had.
Yeah, yo, you're right.
Man, that is the dopest theme song ever. Welcome to the show, Brandon Jay McLaren. I'm Will Gates, that's my dog.
Arthur Agee, thanks for joining the show, Brandon.
Before we get started, y'all, just on the front end, man, I gotta tell y'all this, like, meeting y'all, like, even talking to y'all, like, you guys were so formative in my life as a kid. Your movie impacted me as a young Black kid who was an athlete in ways that, like, y'all could never imagine, man. There's a few moments in your whole life where, like, your childhood self and your adult self collide in a way where you're like, yo, what? And this is one of those moments, man. So before we get into anything about me, I just want to give it up to y'all, man, because, like, yo, y'all were some, like, legit heroes of mine. You know, when did the movie come out? What year?
94.
I was 14, right? So I was in the thick of it, man. I was 14. I was playing soccer and just watching that movie, seeing people that looked like me, that was, you know, trying to, like, come up through athletics. I grew up in a mostly white neighborhood, so, like, you guys were so representative for me, man. Me and my little brother. If my little brother knew right now who I was talking to, he'd freak out. So I just wanted to give it up to y'all before we go into anything, because, like, yo, for me, my mind is, like, blowing all sorts of ways apart right now.
We appreciate that. Absolutely, man. Well, you kind of already answered the first question, because I was going to ask you, when did you watch Hoop Dreams?
I'll never forget when I watched it, man. I was in Toronto, Ontario, visiting my cousins, me and my little brother. I can remember exactly, like, the room we watched it in. And my older cousin, he played basketball at a Canadian university, you know? And I was a huge basketball fan as a teenager. I was more of a basketball fan than a soccer fan. I was just better at soccer, you know what I mean? And I remember he came home one day and he's like, yo, y'all need to watch this. And I was 14. My brother might have been maybe 10, maybe 9. And we watched that shit probably about 3 or 4 times, like, just back to back to back, man. Jaw dropped, mouth open, like, what is this? Right. I've never seen nothing like this. And I've never really, like, watched something that made me feel like this.
So B, it's safe to say it had an impact on you going forward.
Me, my little brother, so my little brother also played, he ended up playing basketball at a Canadian university too, but he had some D1 looks and stuff. So like just the way y'all were pursuing it, you know, just getting, like, sort of like a behind the scenes look into, like, how competitive it is, how tenuous it is. Like, all it takes is, like, one ankle or one missed shot can change the whole trajectory of your career. It's wild. And, like, seeing that, like, as like a 14-year-old kid being like, yo, like, this is not a game.
It's incredible to even hear you say that, because I think for Agee and I, we really didn't recognize that the movie was traveling worldwide like that. Like, you know, we thinking just the States.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully we was like, man, the right people get to see the movie. Yep. But man, just to hear you up in Canada was like, man, me and my little brother, you know, our family, we watching this thing, man. I appreciate that. It means so much love. But again, this ain't about Agee and I. This is about you, man. Our show's a little bit different. We want to know your Hoop Dream story.
Sure, man.
Give us your origin, man. You know, where did you grow up? How was life on the West Coast?
My mom was from Trinidad. My dad's from Grenada. So they met in Toronto. They moved out together to Vancouver, and that's when I was born. Me and my younger brother, and we always grew up like sports was like always like at the top of the mind. Like me and my brother were like this. You know what I mean? It was just like me and him like playing basketball. Like out to like 10 p.m. in the dark. Like how it is, right? You and your little brother just like it was like me and him. We were like the thick as thieves. So I came up playing soccer. And I was pretty good, This was like pre-MLS, so like there wasn't really like a pro avenue. So, for me, like my dream was always just to play D1. Like that was it. Like I didn't really have pro dreams as a kid. I remember like, Saturday mornings watching, Michigan and North Carolina play on ABC, you know what I mean? Like basketball, and knowing that low, like I could play there, but I could play my sport. I could play at that level, but play my sport. So that was always kind of my goal, man, as like a young kid. What was difficult was, we're talking about the mid 90s. Right. And I'm in Canada. So it wasn't like there was no internet, there was no emailing. So to get looks up there from D1 schools, it was next to impossible. You know what I'm saying?
Was soccer the main sport in Vancouver?
No, I mean hockey is Canada, right? So hockey was the main sport. But my parents are not trying to wake up at 5 in the morning taking me to practice before school. You crazy? Right. My younger brother has a great story because my younger brother tried to play hockey. He lasted like 2 weeks, and my mom was like, "Yo, Brent, you really want to do this?" And when your mom is asking, she's telling you, "No, you can't do this anymore." Because ain't nobody trying to wake up at 5 in the morning before school every day.
Wow.
So I kind of got into soccer. My brother was a really good basketball player. He was in like the Canadian like national under 20 program for a while. Soccer kind of took off for me, man. So like that was my main focus, and I always wanted to go D1. So like as a high school kid, like I won a couple of national championships up in Canada, playing for my provincial team. We have a thing in Canada called the Canada Summer Games. It's like the Olympics, but for Canada. And the soccer team that I played for, the British Columbia team, was the under-19 team, and I made the team as a 16-year-old. So I was like the youngest player in the men's tournament. So I kind of got a little bit of attention that way, and I was able to parlay that into some D1 looks in the States, and I ended up choosing to go to Albany.
How did you personally feel playing against older guys?
I was always of the belief as a kid that like if you can play older, you should. But I also think at the same time, it might stunt your development. Because, when you're 16 playing with 18-year-olds, you don't get to, you're just trying to survive. You're in survival mode, right?
Yeah.
So you might not be able to develop, if you're playing against your own kid, your own age, you're able to develop skills that are accordingly. But once you get pumped up maybe too high, you're just trying to like, you don't get to develop the same. And so I don't know, like, what do y'all think about that? About like playing up or playing like a couple years above your age?
Me, I was kind of scared to play against older guys, like grown men. Right. I always kind of waited till I got a little bit stronger to play against them. But I know I can attest, Will, his brother threw him in the gauntlet. He's 13 years old playing against grown men. So, Will.
Yeah.
Well, I think it just depends on physically, because you got some of these kids, man, they look like grown men. So I can't imagine LeBron playing, 15U when he was 15. I mean, LeBron looked like he was 25 when he was 15. So, but I do hear what you're saying. I think mentally, it can wear on you, because if you're not mentally tough, and of course, and especially, and I will also say this, if they bringing you up because they're going to teach you the game, then that's a different aspect. But if they bring you up and you got some upperclassmen mad at you there, you're not going to learn, man.
Like the stuff that you would try, that you would develop against kids your own age, you don't do that when you play up, right? You're just trying to not to make a mistake, and you get into that mode, and then you just stop developing. And I think, and then, and if your confidence gets broken, like, that could mess a kid up. So I'm on the fence, man. I'm on the fence about playing. But I was honored to play up,
Hey, Brandon, let me tell you, that's how we felt. I know my team when we played against William Gates. Now, me and him both in 8th grade at the same time.
Okay.
But because his game individually was so surpassed, everybody in 8th grade at that time. Him and this guy named Sam Canty just stood above everybody else. Like you just knew that they were better than everyone they was playing against. So his 8th grade dude, he'll come in and give us an easy 28, 30 points, 20. I'm like, damn, this dude is good.
But I did enjoy playing up because I think if you can stand in there and you can handle it, it really does prepare you into that national spotlight, which that's what I want to ask you about, man. What is the national spotlight in Canada? Because see, oftentimes, I hate to say this, but down here, man, in the States, we automatically assume that it's all one and the same.
Right.
What is the world of sports in Canada like?
I mean, it's as robust as it is down here. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, like the national championship. So like we would have like provincial teams, which is like the state team, right? So like all the best players in the province, they pick like the top 20, and then we'd all play each other for like the national championship. And these are like massive events. You know what I mean? We'd be flying all over the country. We'd also be going down to like the major U.S. soccer tournaments, like the Surf Cup in San Diego, the Dallas Cup. These are like where like most of like the D1 schools recruit the top kids. So we take like national teams down there. And I remember in my sophomore year in Albany during the summer, there was this guy in Vancouver who put together like a team all across Canada. And his goal was to try to sell players to leagues in Brazil. Because, soccer has a different system. You can sell players. It's not like they don't trade players. They actually sell them.
Now, these teenagers, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were the sophomore year. So this was like I was 18 years old at the time, right? My sophomore year.
Damn.
So I had the chance to go to Grêmio, which is a Division I team in Brazil. And again, my mom was like, scholarship, graduate, you're not going nowhere.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And soccer is different that way too, because the typical channels into the pro leagues isn't college. So, especially at that time, so like for you to play in Europe at that time in the mid 90s, you'd have to leave high school when you're 15 and go chase the pro league.
Wow.
And, my parents being immigrants and education being so important, they were like, Brandon, like, these are cool opportunities, but you're not leaving school at 15 to go in England. Cause like, if you burn out in 3 or 4 years, you know what I mean? Like you need to get that education. And so that was always like in the back of my mind. And you know what, like in hindsight, like, and at the time I resented my parents a little bit for it. I'm not gonna lie. Because y'all know, like, not everybody got it like that. Like these opportunities don't come around to every athlete. When somebody says, hey, like your son's good, I want to take him to England. And you're like, and your mom tells you no, you're like, Mom, like, I don't know if y'all understand like how special this is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they want the best for their kids. They're trying to protect you. They don't know what they don't know either, right? They're just like, this is just my snot-nosed kid that like, like is grumpy all the time. Like they don't really understand. I don't think they really understood the opportunities either. So it was a lot of things going on.
I would think your mom then was thinking like, damn, if my son this good at 15 to be able to, somebody want him to go play on a pro club.
Yeah.
Honey, I want you to get your education first. You can only get better from 15 to when you're 17, 18. Let's graduate high school and then see if they still, you know what I'm saying? If they still interested in you and you that good now.
With soccer too, during that time, like that 14, 15-year-old age is the critical age where like the players in Europe just take off. And so like, if you don't go then when you're 15, you're not going when you're 21.
You're not going when you're 20.
Like,
wow.
Yeah, because they're already in the pro system at 15, right? They're already like kind of like out of high school. So like, they're not playing twice a week and once on Saturdays. They're playing every day. You know what I mean? And so if you don't go, and it's a little different now because now the MLS is like a proper league and they have their own academies. But in the mid 90s, if you didn't go to Europe, if you don't go when you're 15 and get in with a club, by the time you're 19, these guys are way ahead of you. So there was it's like a real small window. And so, and listen, I'm not mad. Like I still got to play my D1. I had a great time in college. I got my degree, and everything worked out. But it was an interesting time. Especially like if your parents have never went to college and they don't understand the whole process, it's hard, it's hard for them to guide you because like they don't know either, right?
They don't know either, yeah.
That's what I want to ask you about. How did you, particularly for some of our younger athletes, when your parents don't understand,
Right.
The importance of that, but yet in their heart of hearts, they're like, yeah, son, one thing we do know is that education will open up any and every door, but you're pleading, Mom, Dad, this is the opportunity. You don't get this all the time. I just want to know, how did you handle the disappointment of that, and how did you move on from that?
Well, I think what I did was I turned that into like really focusing on trying to get to a D1 school. And this was all like self-driven as a teenager because like my parents didn't know the difference between D1, D2. They didn't know the difference between like playing at a D1 US school versus a Canadian school. So this was all like self-driven. And like, also I'm up in Canada. We don't have SATs up there, right? So like I would have to find courses on my own time in high school, separate from my full like normal school load, to study for that specific test because that wasn't a thing, but I knew I needed that to get in. So man, like I was like maniacal about it. Like, and like, let me tell you, like, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, there's nothing stopping me. There's this company called College Prospects of America or something. And it was specifically designed to try to get Canadian kids D1 looks. I don't know if y'all know Steve Nash, right? He came out of Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
I think Santa Clara was the only offer he got.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right. I remember that.
He got one offer to one D1 school in the US, and it was just Santa Clara. Like, if he didn't get that one offer, like, who knows what his career would have been?
Right. And he said that's why he took it. He said that's why he went there, because he had only got one.
Because there was no looks up there, right? And I think he went to school maybe 2 or 3 years before I did. There was just like not a lot of opportunity. So like I would just kind of like did this thing as a 15-year-old. I was just out hustling, just like, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. I'm gonna make it happen. And my parents were kind of like, all right, man, like you seem like you got a handle on this. Like whatever you got, like whatever support you need, we'll fill in the gaps. And so, yeah, so it so happened that it all kind of worked out. And with my resume and with a little bit of the tape that I was able to show, I got a couple of offers and I chose to go to Albany.
Big time there, man. Wow.
Now, what was dope, though, was I was able to impart all that knowledge on my younger brother, right? Because I already been through the ring, right? So I already kind of knew, like, what was up, what things to, look for, what things to not look for, Like, for instance, like the coach that recruited me to Albany, he got fired after my freshman year. If you're the coach that recruits you gets fired, like you're not, like, because a new coach wants to bring in all his guys.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know how it
That's
is, right?
Will went through that.
You've been through that, right?
Yeah, I've been through that. I mean,
yeah, man, and it's wild. So like little things like that if you don't go, you're like, oh, like we're getting a better coach. It's like, yeah, but he might not have you. He didn't recruit you, so he might not have your best interest in mind. Stuff like that if you haven't gone through it, you wouldn't think of. But that's like important information. It's like tell kids who are like going through it in real time. You know what I mean? Don't go to a school where you think the coach might be on the out.
You're right about that.
When the Grizzlies came out of Vancouver, we heard you was a ball boy. How did you get that gig?
So my mom was a banker in Vancouver, and there was a guy named Trevor Thompson who was the announcer for the Grizzlies. Right. I think he had just moved to Vancouver. So my mom was doing his mortgage. And I guess they were just talking, and he was like, hey, like, by the way, like, like, I don't know if you have any kids or anything, but we're looking for ball boys. And she was like, matter of fact, like, I have a son. He's a huge basketball fan. He's 15. And that's how I got the interview.
Get just out of here.
Yeah. Wow. Nepotism like a mug. Yeah.
You get the interview. Give us your first day. Your first game.
First day on the job, man. I don't even remember my first game because it was like as a 15-year-old, as a basketball fan, like, is there any better job? Like,
you get the gear, you get the jackets.
You're on the floor. You're hanging out with the players. You're getting the free shoes, the NBA socks. You know how many socks I got, bro? With the NBA logo.
Yes.
You know how dope you are in 10th grade when you show up to basketball practice with the NBA logo socks?
With the NBA logo socks. You was shit.
Yo, you killed it. You ruled the whole school, man.
Yeah.
The warm-up jerseys. I can't remember my first day, but I do remember, like, You know, it's funny. I just went to the Lakers game last night. My neighbor has tickets, and I was talking about working in the NBA and like how formative that was for me as like a 15, 16-year-old kid being in that professional environment, just seeing how the coaches move, the trainers move, seeing how the players move.
Yeah.
And then realizing like, yo, like, this is like the highest of the highest level. And this is across any high level industry, whatever business you are. There's a certain way that people move, right? There's a certain way that people conduct themselves. There's a certain consistency, a certain level of expectation. And that was such an education for me, man, because I was like, oh, okay, like this is how people in these spaces move. I need to start to act in this type of way if I want to be able to exist in these type of spaces. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course, you had a front row seat to see elite life, like through all spectrums and industries. Like, lawyers come to these games, entertainment stars come to these games. Like, you was able to have a front row seat and see all of this, bro.
At 16, is there any better education? I don't know, man. I don't know if there is. You know what I mean?
Wow. Amazing. Because
you see guys at the top of their game. I'll never forget this. Like Anthony Peeler would every day his warm up would be 5 shots left side bank, 2 feet from the rim, 5 shots swish, 5, and then he'd move out 2 feet, and just that kind of methodical every day, that routine. You're like, oh, these guys aren't just coming out here just chucking up shots. These guys show up to the court with a plan every day, and every day they execute that plan. And it's that consistency over time. I'm like, yeah, that's how you get to any sort of high level position in anywhere. It's that consistency over time. So that was it, man. It was the best job ever.
Is there a moment that you can share that you happened as you were a ball boy, that something happened that you still carry with you this day, that you even still tell that story? Do you have one of those?
I have a bunch, man. I don't know if I could tell all of them. I'm gonna tell you one. I'll tell you one that
give us a PG one. Give us a parental guidance.
And I love the kids, so I'm gonna give you a PG one. So do y'all remember when Dennis Rodman kicked the camera guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the next game after that, he was in Vancouver, and I was doing the mop underneath the basket. So this is the next. So people were still talking about this because I think the guy sued him. It was a big thing.
Right.
So Dennis comes down the court, goes for a layup. He falls down by me. Right. So I get out of the way, and he gets up and he fakes to kick me because he just kicked the guy the day before. And I was like, "Oh, Dennis, that's not funny." That was the story. Yeah, Dennis was hilarious. So that was funny.
Oh, that is amazing.
Crazy story, man. Look, let's jump into your university, man. Let's jump into your university stuff, man. Tell us about up there at Albany, man. Tell us, that culture. Was it a culture shock for you?
Yeah, hell yeah. You know what I mean? I was from Vancouver. First of all, I was on the other side of the country. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't like I was going home. I was going home maybe once a year at Christmas. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's it. Thanksgiving, I would stay there. Spring break, I would stay out there. So yeah, it was good for me though, because I got real serious about my life. I remember my mom was like, yo, listen, Brandon, you have 4 years to graduate. There's no oh, you screwed up a scenario, summer school. We can't afford that.
Right.
I'm not paying, we don't have another $20,000 for you to screw up and go for a 5th year. So get your shit, so I went there with my head down, trying to get to the MLS and trying to get my degree in 4 years. So that was good for me, man. It's good to when you get away from home, you realize you use a little less toilet paper because, you got to buy another. You know what I mean? Little stuff like that. You're like, oh, okay. Maybe I only need 2 sheets today. You know what I mean? Because, so I got real serious about my life, man. And it was good, it was also good for me, as an athlete, it kind of really sort of raised my competitive spirit because, everybody's dope where they come from at D1.
Yep.
Then you get to D1 and you're like, oh, well, you're just as dope as me. Oh, right. You're dope too. You know what I mean? And you start to look around. You're like, oh, the room's a little more crowded than it was at home.
What was that campus? What was your campus life like?
I mean, it was strict, man. Like there was no time because like you're playing, you got a full course load, you got study hall, you got weight room. Like every hour of the day was accounted for. You know what I mean? And even in the off season. So in the off season, because our season was, we'd get there 2 weeks early before school started because our season started like September 1st. And then in the off season, we get like the bad practice times because we're not in season. Right. So our practices would be at 4:30 in the morning. Yeah, bro, 5 days a week. So 4:30 to 6, and then you got to go to class the whole day. Bro, I'm in physics lab, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was wild. Yeah, there was no time. There was no time. At the same time, though, like, I still wake up today at 6 o'clock and I run and I go, like, all those habits that, like, that started from college, I still live like that, and people think I'm a mad person. And I'm like, no, man, like, that's how I know to be. Like, I just know to be like, you want to get stuff done. This is how you do things.
You know, Brandon, that's the one thing I liked about college, and me and Will always Will stresses this to his kids too, because we both was, you know, managing our time while we was in school and stuff. But, me and Will, we grew up watching Different World and all that. So we wanted to experience that college life. You know what I'm saying? Like as much time as we had left just in between a day, let me just walk the campus just with my boys, just chilling here and there. But man, just that time management time.
We had parties and stuff, but I guess like when I hear like people who didn't play a sport, like their like recount of what college was.
Yeah.
Like,
they got all the time.
Yeah, we're not living in different worlds. Like, like when people put like, you know what I mean? So like, I don't want to say that like I didn't have any fun, but like comparatively, not even close, and like the travel time and the buses up and down the coast and, you're busy, man. Like it's a busy life. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because you always got them people like, why are they here on scholarship? If they understood what the scholarship meant, they would. It's a different level. As a matter of fact, that's what I wanted to ask you, man. How did you? I mean, because you studied biology. It wasn't like you went in there and took water basket weaving class.
Yeah, I graduated cum laude, man. Like I wasn't there messing around, goodness. Bro. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Dog. How did you manage that though? Because we got a lot of, kids, and even sometimes, I even tell my own kids, man, I want you to also enjoy being the age that you are, because you only get to be that age for 1 year. How did you balance that?
Oh man, like, I guess like for me, like I always enjoyed like, for me, like I prefer being good at things. That gives me joy than just like hanging out. Mm-hmm. Like I get joy from like achievement. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's necessarily healthy. That's another podcast with maybe some psychologists and stuff. I don't know, but I can tell for myself like that's what I enjoy. So like, I wanted to make sure I started all 4 years. I wanted to make sure like I graduated with like the best GPA that I could. And like I said, like I wasn't there to like mess around. Like my mom gave me that talk and I took that to heart. She's like, bro, we don't have like, there's no window of like, I could look like a, just kind of mess around. Nah, there's no messing around there's no flunking out for a semester because we don't have the money to do this again. Yeah. And so I took that I took that to heart. So yeah, like I said, it's not to say like I didn't enjoy myself, but like, I was out there trying to build a foundation for my life. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like in like a real, like without this sound, like I don't want me to sound corny, but like I was just trying to like sort of like put in the building blocks of like how I wanted the rest of my life to be. And I think because I was so far from home that like I just really felt that I was like on an island and like I had to make this work for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I think that's a great mindset that you said that you had. Mm-hmm. When Will asked, how did you balance it all? And you was like, you just want to, I get excited from achieving things. So by you, I don't think that's a bad thing from a psychologist standpoint. I think that's a great thing because by you thinking that way, you set yourself up always for something good first. You know what I'm saying? And if it don't happen,
at least to learn something, even if you fail, like At least to learn, right? Which is like a win at the end of the day.
Exactly. But if it don't happen the way that you envisioned it or it went through, you still know that you gave your first good foot forward, and now I know what to change or do going forward next time. And it won't be a hindrance. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a great mindset.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate you.
You're in school, handling your business, taking care of business. Now you at this crossroad. Pro soccer, acting. When did those two merge?
So I had started doing commercials when I was 12. I did my first commercial when I was 12. It was a honeycomb commercial. It's on my Instagram page. It's ridiculous.
One of my favorite cereals.
I like the slanted box, and like I'm like doing the running man and stuff. So like I always had like a side interest. It's ridiculous. I always had a side interest in acting. You know, I was always involved in drama in high school. But again, it was one of those things where like my parents were like, yo, you can't go to college and get a theater degree. Like, bro, like, you know what I mean? It just wasn't something we talked about. It wasn't even something that like I even like thought about. So I'm in college. It's my junior year. I haven't really acted since like my senior year in high school. And I started dating this girl, right? And she was in an a cappella group on campus. And so one night I went to go see her sing. And as a science major and as a soccer player, I go from the soccer field to the weight room to like the science wing in the university. I've never been to that side of the school. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, you know how it is. Like, you just stick to like your routine. So man, I go to see her sing one night in the university theater, and I walked in, and I hadn't been into a theater since 12th grade. And I sat there by myself, man. I'm not gonna lie, yo. Like, I kind of got emotional, like, cause I hadn't been in like that space, like just being in the theater. Yeah, man. Like, I kind of had like a little bit of like just like a little bit of like a little bit of like a breakdown. Like, and I was like solo do, like watching her sing, and like I was like, yo, like I was like, it feels good to be here in this space. And the next day, man, I was like, yo, I think I got to revisit this acting thing. Like, I think something like it was so powerful.
Wow.
This is what I did. So I called the theater department. You know, when you're young, you don't know better. And like you do some wild shit that like I look back, I'm like, that was wild. Yeah. That's what I did. I called the theater department. I was like, listen, I'm a soccer player at the school. I'm a human biology major, but like I want to take some acting classes. But I done commercials. Like, I don't want to take no acting 101. Like, I want to take the junior level class.
Right.
And she was like, excuse me, sir? Like, like the head of the theater department. She was like, right. I was like, yo, listen, I was like, let me audition for you. Just give me a shot. Let me audition for you. And if you think I can, if you put me 101, fine. But like, just give me a shot. So she was like, okay. She was like, well, meet me in my office next week. Have 2 monologues prepared. And so, yeah, man, I went in, I auditioned for her in her office, and then she's like, all right, man, yeah, she's put me in acting 300. Wow. Just like that. That's like when you're young and dumb and you don't know no better. You just like, right. You just shots.
I know you went kind of crazy when she put you in, when you did your thing, your monologue, and I want to ask you which 2 monologues did you do, but you went right into
acting 300. Yeah. But just because I called her and I asked, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, just let me prove it to you. And if you don't think I'm good enough, I'll take the L. But like, give me a shot. And like, her name is Marna Lawrence, God bless her soul. Like, she gave me an opportunity, right?
Right.
She like saw that I was hungry, and she was like, yeah. So the next year, I got a lead in one of the plays. And as like a non-theater major, like they don't cast people outside the theater major in like the 4 plays they do a year. And after that, I was like, yo, like, let me like, after I graduate, let me try this acting thing for a year or 2 and see what happens. And here we are, 20-something years later, man.
I just got to ask you this, man, and then we're going to get into this thing we call halftime. But
okay.
I've been hearing this thing come from you, man. You go for it. You just, you pursue it. And you even called it ambitious. And even a few minutes ago, you was like, I was just a crazy kid. But where does that come from? Because I think every person wants what you're talking about right now, man, to take a chance on themselves. Where did you develop that at?
I really believe, I really wanted to play pro soccer, and I never got to. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of the major disappointments in my life, because I know that when I went to college, I put my all into it, and there's like, as a human being, it's very difficult to admit that you put your all into something and maybe you came up a little short. Because everyone, you know the excuse guy, right? There's always the excuse guy in every room. The coach this, and I hate that guy. You never want to be that guy. So that was really disappointing. At the same time, I think what I took from that is like, there's something noble in like giving your all in something and failing as long as you give your all, and it doesn't kill you. You know, I feel like a lot of people think like, what if I give my all and I'm not good enough? And I learned that with soccer, and I learned that it didn't kill me. And in fact, I learned that like I actually like doing that. And so I think I've carried that mentality into everything else. Because I know that like if I give my all and I fall a little short, it's not gonna kill me. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the moment you realize it's not gonna kill you, it takes away all the fear. You know, because people are just feel that, oh man, like, if I don't do it, like what am I gonna do? It's like, nah, it's like then you could say you gave it your all and you move on to the next one. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's where I developed that. I think it was through that failure that I was able to come out and be like, okay, well, what's next? And like, what am I going to give my everything into next? And if I fail at that, I know it didn't kill me that time. It's not going to kill me another time.
This weekend, the NBA is jam-packed with big games. Friday, the Nuggets and the Hawks square off, plus Steph and the Warriors visit Boston for a showdown at the Gardens. Saturday at the Garden, the Knicks and the Celtics battle, and later that evening, the Wizards head out west to Utah to take on Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz. And then Sunday, check out my Chicago Bulls with LaVine and DeRozan battle LeBron and the Lakers in Chicago. And later on, the Hornets are in Phoenix to face Chris Paul, that dog, and the Suns. Listen, don't wait any longer. Head to my bookie today to redeem double your deposit bonus so you can get in the game and start winning big today. Remember, use promo code HoopDreams to receive double your first deposit instantly. No hassle, no wait. Remember, bet anything, anytime, anywhere with my bookie. Go to mybookie.ag and place your bets. While you're out there, be sure to follow the Hoop Dreams podcast on Instagram and Twitter at OG Hoop Dreams, and listen and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and Google, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts at. Well, listen, Brandon, we got this thing we call halftime, and we're gonna ask you some questions, man, some quick hitters. But I gotta throw the first one at you because this ain't what I'm supposed to ask you, but I'm gonna throw it at you anyway.
All right.
So my first question for you is, I think SPD got the toughest theme songs, but what are your top 5 Power Ranger opening themes?
Yo, I'm going to pull a Dylon from SPD. Top fire. There you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Hit him with another one, Will.
Favorite city you lived in while filming?
Auckland.
Really?
Auckland.
Yeah.
Where's that?
We shot New Zealand. We shot Power Rangers in Auckland.
Is that where it was at?
Yeah. So we spent like 9 months in Auckland. It was incredible, man. And that was like my first. I was 25, and that was like my first kind of like big gig. And I got to travel and live in Auckland, New Zealand for 9 months. Out of this world.
Is there a director you like to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Yeah. David Fincher. Yeah, I love his movies. He's just slick.
David is known for?
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That's off the top of my head. Fincher is like, he's a king. He's just slick. Yeah.
Okay.
And how about an actor you like to work with? Or an actress?
I love Tom Hardy. And I love Jessica Chastain. I think they're both like high level. Everything they're in, I just find them so watchable and so truthful. Masters.
Love it.
Good. All right. For the shoot one at you, give us your favorite character you played up to this point.
Dale Jakes, Graceland.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Tell us a couple of shows that you're watching right now and why.
I mean, I was watching Turner and Hooch, which is my show. Is that okay? Can I say that?
The new reboot one, right?
Yeah, the new reboot.
Yeah, the new reboot.
Disney Plus. Go check it out, everybody, if you haven't. But I haven't really been watching much TV lately. I've been busy working on The Rookie and Snowfall, and reading those scripts. And so you know, when I'm having my downtime, I actually really like to watch food shows. You know what I mean? I'm a big foodie. So like, you know, like I love Ugly Delicious. I've been watching a lot lately. I just kind of like to get outside of the world that I'm in and like watch something different.
Yeah.
You know, but I had just started, when I booked the Snowfall gig, I started watching that. So I'm like the first 2 seasons into Snowfall. Have y'all seen it yet?
Oh, yeah.
Snowfall?
Come on.
It's wild.
Come on, man.
I will admit, man, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
But I am going to watch it.
It's wild, right, Arthur? It's wild.
Snowfall is off the chain.
Yeah, it's that real. That's that real.
Give us your 5 favorite musical artists of all time.
Ooh, of all time. Okay, Nas, Smith & Wesson. I mean, I got to say the Beatles because I love me some Beatles. I got to say Bunny Wailer because me and my dad used to listen to Bunny Wailer growing up, and that shit just had like an effect on my soul. And then maybe I'll go like Nirvana or no, Radiohead, those 5.
Radiohead, okay.
Is there a role that you really wanted, but you didn't get?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's
he said, yeah, man.
Where do you begin? You know, it's funny, like when I first moved to LA, you know, I had like a real hard like learning curve down here. Like I didn't work for about 2 years when I first got down here because it's like a different game. It's more competitive. But there's this one audition that kind of changed my perspective. And it was a role that I didn't end up getting, but I kind of knew in the room that like, I knew that I would like, I could tell by the casting director's reaction that I was like, okay, like now I'm ready. And I didn't end up getting the part, which is ironic. You know what I mean? Right. So yeah, there's like a lot of things that you think you really, really want and you don't get, or like it's between you and somebody else. And, you know, you're like, oh, another second choice. You know what I mean? Nobody, you know, there's no second place ribbons. You know what I'm saying? Like only one person gets to be on screen.
Hey, Brandon, I can relate to you in that realm right there. Dude, yeah. I went out for this audition and I got called back. When you get called back more than 3 times, oh, you thinking like, oh, it's getting nailed down to the final 5 or the final 3. Mm-hmm. So it was Quincy in the Love and Basketball, Gina Blytheworth's movie.
Okay,
so
okay.
I get called back the 5th time.
How long ago was this?
Oh man, this was like early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah. I get called back the 5th time. Spike Lee in the room, Gina Blytheworth in the room, and one of the other directors was in the room. So I'm thinking I'm, got this joint, right? I leave on a high. I ain't get a call back saying I ain't get it or nothing. I was mad as hell.
You looking at your phone, you like you checking your phone plan? You like, yo, is my phone not working? Yeah.
Damn, like 2 weeks it went by. I ain't got a phone call, nothing. So I talked to my agent. She was like, "Oh yeah, Arthur, that's how the business is. They don't, if you don't get the part, they not finna call you and let you know you don't get it.
They just don't call.
Damn, they just don't call. I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hey man, let me tell y'all something. Y'all educating me right now because I'm just sitting there like, what?
Yeah.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Like, how do you get in the acting game? What's the steps and
yeah,
are you out there knocking on the doors? You get an agent?
Story, man. I have another crazy story. So how I got into it, in my senior year in high school, I told you I was involved in a theater program in high school, right? Mm-hmm. So my drama teacher in 12th grade, Harvey Ostroff, what up, Harvey? He brought in a casting director in one day just to be like, hey, like, this is what it's like in the real world. These are like what sides are. And she was like, hey, does anybody want to like read these? And of course I was like, I do. So I went up and I read it with her, and the next day, my grade 12 drama teacher was like, hey man, he's like, so Suzanne like thinks you're talented. And she was like, if you ever want an agent, like she said, give her a call. And at that time I was already like full, like I was going to Albany, like I had all my life ducks in a row. Mm-hmm. Cut to my senior year when I graduated Albany, I went back to Vancouver and I found that same lady and I called her.
What?
I was like, yeah, bro. I was like, hey, Suzanne. I was like, this is Brandon. I met you 4 years ago at Johnston Heights. I read for you. And she's like, yeah, I remember you. And I was like, yo, you said if I ever wanted an agent, hit you up. So this is me, 4 years later, hitting you up. And she set me up with like 3 meetings like the next day.
Wow. And it took off from there.
That's it, man. I'm still with that same agent up in Canada. I'm still with her today. And that was is in 2002.
You're still with the same agent from 2002.
Now I have representation in LA now, but that was my first agent up in Canada, and I'm still with her up in Canada. Same girl. And I was 22. I think she was like 24 at the time. Like, we've grown up together, man. Yeah.
That is crazy.
If one wants to get into acting, what are the first 3 steps that they need to do first?
Man, okay, that's a great question. I'm gonna preface this with like, I don't know how qualified I am because I've been in it for so long and the game changes. So like what I did in 2002 may not apply in 2021.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like the rules of engagement change. That being said, I would be like, hey, get into an acting class. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Right? Like nobody cares how good looking you are. Like, you might be cute in your hometown. Nobody gives a get into an acting class. It's just like, you know what I'm saying? But it's just like sports, man. This is like a craft. This is like a skill set that has to be learned and developed over time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like every once in a while, you'll hear like a Hollywood story about so-and-so moves here and gets discovered. But 90% of the people out here who have a career that spans over, any significant amount of time are really good at what they do. That's why they keep working. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, hey, get some headshots and get into an acting class. And after that, everything else, you'll meet people who can help you along the way. But those are the 2 things. Because if you're not in an acting class, you're not serious. And if you're not serious, this is not the business for you because it's just too competitive.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough.
Man, that's amazing. Again, I'm just like...
That's it. Those are like the foundational pieces. You know what I mean? After that, it's just all better. If you're not doing those 2 things, you're skipping the main beats.
Let me just ask you this question, man. When it comes to acting, and again, educate me because you and Agee know. Do y'all have to know all those lines? Like, I mean,
not
that stuff is amazing.
No. It's like you just got to learn what you got to shoot for that day. You know what I mean? And like you also you shoot out of sequence a lot. So stuff that happens on, in the 40th minute of the script, I'll shoot like a day before. So everything's usually out of order. So you just got to know what you got to know for your shooting day. Unless you're doing like a stage play, then you got to know the whole thing. But in film and TV, you just got to know what you got to know for that day of shooting. I know that like a big reason like why I've been able to succeed in this business is because of the athletics. Because I treat this like sports. Like it's a muscle. It's a muscle. If I'm not acting on a regular basis, I get rusty. Just like if you're not shooting on a regular basis, you can't just not shoot for a month and go pick up a ball and expect to, pick not. It's the same thing. It's a muscle that you have to keep sharp, right? Or else you lose it. It's the same idea. Anyway, that's how I approach it. And that's just comes from being an athlete. So like, I got to be acting every day. I got to be reading something every day. I got to be doing something towards that end every day, or else when those opportunities come, if you're not ready, you know what I mean? It might be another couple of years before these big opportunities come, so you got to stay sharp.
You say you still deal with the lady in Canada, but you also have an agency in LA.
I have an agency and a manager in LA. So I have like 3 different people on my team. So, they're just constantly talking, looking for opportunities up there and down here. And they're great. Big up Ben Gorman, Buckwald, Laura, Becca, Steven. I got to give them shouts out. Natasha, if they watch this, they won't watch it, but if they do. But yeah, they work in synergy and they always have like my best interest at heart, right? So we're in constant conversation about, what the next project is, like if it's right, if it feels right, what platform it's going to be on. Cause like I like to do different things. Like I like to do a drama, and then the next thing I like to do is a comedy. Like I like to keep it balanced. Yeah. You know what I mean? Otherwise I kind of feel stale. Right. So we also try to I also like to pay my mortgage too. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
So you got to keep a balance, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
I want to ask you this, man. Quayton, I'm hearing everything you're saying, how you use sports. So I know for me, man, when I was playing, I may try to act like I wasn't nervous, but I was nervous before games. Are you are you nervous? Like, man, I'm going on a new set.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. When you're booking, when you're gonna audition for like a series regular role, they call like a main character role on a show. There's a thing called the screen test, right? Where like the top 3 guys, you'll go into a room and they'll make you sign the contract for like 5 years while you're in the room. So like, you know, you're going in. I remember my first screen test. I'm like 27. I'm in Universal Studios. I go into the room. I see 2 other dudes that look like me. And they're like, here's your paperwork, sir. And like, you're 27 and like, you're looking at this contract and like, dog, Mike, I'm looking at like the money per episode. And like, my hand is like shaking, like literally, because like, you don't want to say like, this could change your life.
Yeah.
And you have about 2 minutes. You walk into the room. There's like 15 people waiting. You do one scene, do the other scene, thank you, and then you leave and you wait. And then the other guy goes in, and sometimes you're waiting there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then, okay, everybody go home. And I only say this because I really believe that like my success in those spaces is because I was an athlete. That like, I had that mentality when I go into those spaces. Like, you know, when you're about to play a big game and you're like, listen, like, I know like me on my best day, like when you're playing your best, there's nobody, they don't care where you are. Nobody's stopping you. Right. And I in my core, I have that like, yo, like, listen, like I'm ready to play. Like I might not win, but like, this moment's not too big for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that just comes from being an athlete and like playing in big games and in championship games where you walk into a situation and the moment's not too big. And that doesn't mean you always win. Mm-hmm. But you do have this, you got to have a little bit of like, hey, like, me and you, let's see who's best kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? That is amazing.
What was that first taste walking in to your first TV set and to your first movie set?
So my first speaking role ever was on a WB show. Remember the WB? Before it was the CW?
Network, yeah.
And it was called The Black Sash. It was like a kung fu show where Ray J was on it.
Really?
I don't know if y'all remember that. Yeah. And this is probably in like 2004, and I had one line. It's my first speaking role ever.
Right.
And I remember like walking on set and like I had like my little trailer and shit. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yo, like, it was funny, like insignificant at the time, but to me, I was like, oh, like, okay, like I'm making progress.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like to me, like that one line, I'm like, okay, well, I said I was gonna come out here to do something, and like I'm doing it, and it's incremental, but like it's something to like keep me going. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm onto something here, and that just like led me to take more classes and to wanting like bigger parts, and you know, and eventually that kind of happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Brandon, you are educating me, man.
Oh,
what's like a typical day to like, give me like the behind the scenes aspect of it, you know, timelines for each show. How does all that stuff work?
Well, it depends, man. Like, this is why like I love the job. It's so dynamic, right? Like every day is completely different. So like sometimes you're in the whole day. Sometimes you're in every scene of the day. So like normally they'll film like 12 pages of dialogue a day, right? So like one page is like an hour worth of shooting. So they say like 10 to 12 pages. So sometimes like I'm only in one scene that day. Sometimes the scene's only one page. So like I show up at 3, I'm done by 6. Sometimes I'm there at 4 in the morning and I don't get off until 6 at night. So every day is different. It just depends on what they happen to be shooting that day. And it depends on like your role in the show. If you're one of the main characters, you know, you're gonna be there all the time because you're in most of the scenes. You know, if you're just like a recurring character, you're only in like 3 or 4 scenes an episode, you know, you might only work like 2 days an episode for like a half a day. So it all really, really depends. There's like no like one sort of like typical day. So Turner and Hooch is the show that I just finished that just came out on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. So both my parents had speaking roles in 2 different episodes.
What?
On the show. Yeah,
nice,
man. Like,
nice.
For me, man, like that was incredible. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So I think my mom's in episode 5 and my dad's in episode 9.
Oh, I'm on it tonight, man.
Like,
I'm on it tonight.
Just to like circle back and give them like to be able to have something on record forever that like I'm in, that like my mom and my dad, you know what I mean? Like that's special, man. So that's really, really dope.
Did they enjoy that experience? I'm sure.
They did. I mean, they were like beside themselves, you know, like they were both retired. And, you know, so like that's kind of like what they do on the side, like a little hobby for them, right? They got nothing else to do. And so and I'm like, you know, I'm like a main character on the show. So I was like, yo, like, let's try to like see if we can get y'all in there, man. It was special. Yeah.
And I know we're talking about acting, man, but I'm glad you brought your parents up because you brought them up a couple of times. Just share for our audience, man, what your parents mean to you.
I mean, look, man, like I'm 41 and I still am trying to make my parents proud. You feel me? Like, I don't know what that is, but that didn't go away. You know what I mean? Like I still want to make them proud of me. You know, I still have this thing where like I'm still trying to like prove myself.
Right.
Hey, like, yo, see guys, like I'm out here, like I could do, you know what I mean? Like you have that little kid inside you that's still trying to like make your folks proud. And like I said, like they've just done right by me, man. Like they've done right by me my whole life, me and my younger brother. And so like to be able to like be in a position where like you could do anything for them, you know what I mean? Anything like kind or whatever. Like it just makes it all kind of worth it. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
It's nothing like parental support.
Yeah. And then be able to like pay it back in any kind of way. Like that's like the ultimate full circle, you know?
Hey, let me ask you this. Did your mom and them finally like apologize and say about you want to go into acting? So now you done blew up into this actor and they done came in like, son, you done did it, baby. Like, I apologize. You right. You had the right chops.
Yeah, they were like, you know, and like we've had talks about that too, because like, you know, like I hold a grudge. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a grudge holder.
Me too.
Right? You know how it is.
Yeah.
I don't forget. I never forget, man. And so we've talked about that. And like, you know, we've come out on the other side being like, they didn't know either. Like they didn't know what they didn't know. And like, so like, I think when they heard that, they're like, hey man, it's like, you just got a degree. You have a Bachelor of Science. You want to do what? And, you know, and I think too, they're like, well, you know, in their minds, they're like, well, if you're not Tom Cruise, then what is this acting stuff? Because they just didn't know, you know? Right. And so like me having this career has been an education for everybody in the field, right?
Wow.
So now they understand it acutely. And they were like, hey man, we just wanted your best interest in mind. And I told them like, Mom, Dad, you know me, man. Like I don't do anything half-assed. Like if I say I'm gonna do something, do it. And I love to prove somebody wrong, man. Like I said, I'm a grudge holder.
Yeah.
I love to prove somebody wrong. And like, hey, whatever it takes to motivate you, use it. You know what I'm saying?
If I was you, I'd be like, hey, Mom and Dad, I need at least 2.5% out that turn-in hooch check.
It's called the finder's fee.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
So speaking of your acting, man, tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing. Snowfall is coming up. Break that down for us.
I'm doing The Rookie right now. So The Rookie, I play this this crime boss on The Rookie. I think I'm in the new episode coming out this Sunday. And then I just started shooting Snowfall like 2 months ago. I play like this crooked cop who, you know, Snowfall is about the 80s crack epidemic in LA. So I played this crooked cop in the Crash division, which was like one of the most corrupt divisions in the LAPD. So I'm on like both sides of the fence with this character, and I got a crack addiction and a failing marriage, and it's wild, man. So I'm having a great time. Yeah. It's one of the coolest roles I've ever done.
Well, Brandon, let me tell you something, man. This has been an amazing interview. But Agee and I heard something about you, man, and we just want to know if it's truth. And if it is true, then you got to give us a little something that come with it. We heard that you got some rapping skills.
I mean, so yeah, that's another thing that like me and my brother had just started doing a couple of years ago. So like my brother is a very, very good rapper, you know what I mean? And he was actually trying to make a music career, and it kind of fizzled out. And so he went to go, you know, now he's like a professor at a junior college out here in LA.
Wow.
So a couple Christmases ago, I was like, yo, Brent, like, let's just like make some music together and like see what happens. And so we've sold like 4 songs to like different TV shows.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have our music and TV now. Like again, this is just like what we were talking about before, just like doing stuff and not being afraid and like just seeing what happens. And like, so yeah, man, like we've sold 4 songs. You know, we're out we're out recording some more stuff over Thanksgiving. And like just kind of this thing literally just happened out of nowhere, man. We're just like, we decided to do it one day, and like, you know, we've sold a couple, like, not a lot of people can say they have their songs in television, and we have 4.
You're right about that. You got a line for us?
Oh man, I'm like, come on, bro, you can't do that.
So you gotta give us a line, man. You gotta give us a line.
You could play the music maybe over the top of the intro. I'll send you some songs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, this has been an incredible interview, but my dog got one final question for you because we know you got to get up out of here, man. It's been a true blessing for me. Absolutely. I mean, I'm talking to the Red Power Ranger. This is like next level, man. But my dog got one final question for you.
All right.
Brandon Jay McLaren, what is the next chapter in your hoop dream?
The next chapter, man, is moving behind the camera. You know what I mean? It's developing. It's starting to have a little more agency over my like the roles that I have and like the stories that I get to tell, the stories that I want to tell. So yeah, the next chapter, it's focused. I'm working on it currently, and it's on that development side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like sort of like the next natural progression, and so that's what I've been like really focusing on. So hopefully, man, in a couple of years, maybe we could circle back and I could talk about maybe some shows that I've created that I have on the air. That would be incredible.
I'm the gold of my era. I've been a trending topic. I'm as fly as a feather. My pockets macroscopic. See, with time I get better. I'm always in the action, kid. Know I got it locked from Chicago where the toughest live. Concrete jungle, earn my stripes on the pavement there. You make it here, then you can make it anywhere. No comparison. Your game is embarrassing. No one can touch me. I'm all for going there again. Yeah, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me. Yeah, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me.
Hoop Dreams the podcast, an Unlearning Network production. Written and produced by Arthur Agee, Will Gates, Matt Hoffer, with audio engineering from Matt Savage. For more episodes, check us out at www.unlearningnetwork.com.
Gotta be a dog to survive in this cold weather. Ice in my veins, no need for a warm sweater. I'm coming for it all, best believe I won't let up, yeah. Hey, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me. Yeah, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me.